Alrighty, in this video I'm going to show you how to start drawing the mouth. Now this is a closed mouth, 3/4 view. Again, when you're drawing the mouth, you have to think about what perspective or view is it as, a 3/4 view, front view, profile view, how much of the mouth are we actually seeing. I can tell this is a 3/4 view because if I were to draw a line down the center of the mouth, which is where in between the apex, here at the cleft, I'm not seeing an equal amount of the mouth on each side. If it was a front view portrait, I would see half of the mouth here and half of it here. But obviously, we're seeing less than half when we think about it in size of, or in terms of like visual sizing, because the mouth itself wraps around the jaw, the contours of the teeth. It's convex. So we have to remember that as the head turns, we see less and less of the lips on the opposite side, farthest away from us. And we can get kind of tricked up as to thinking that we see the whole mouth and all of the lips when we really don't. So for some students, I always suggest flipping this upside down and drawing it upside down, so you're looking at it as shapes versus lips and thinking that you know what lips look like instead of actually looking at them. But the first thing you want to do is you want to start with the rima. The rima is the center line here. And that line is very important to the accuracy of making the person's mouth look like their mouth. The mouth is the second most expressive feature on the face. 1, 2. So 1 here takes me to 2. That's the length that I need. There we go. So I'm looking at the subtleties of the curvature in the rima, making sure its length is appropriate from the center, from each side. Really important with a 3/4 view portrait. And then I can start working on my upper lip line and my lower lip line. Check my angles, my line work. To make it look more like that particular person's mouth. And as you draw with any feature, you might find some areas where you feel it's inaccurate, and you are always free to make changes. And I'm always measuring comparatively the thickness of the top lip to the thickness of the bottom lip, so that I'm making sure things are in proportion as I go. Now your lips are really just a darker pigmented skin with some fatty tissue underneath, right, to make them look plump. So this contour line that I'm drawing really doesn't become the end-all, be-all shape of the lips that I'm drawing. It's just a contour as a guide. And then you do want to lighten up those lines. You probably can barely see them in the video, but you want to lighten them up to the point where you can barely see them, and then you're going to start applying tones. So again, you want to have a angle on your lid That angled part of your lead is what you want to touch the paper so you can apply your values smoothly. And I'm going to go into the Rima first. That's not in the right spot. And her mouth is just ever so slightly parted just a teeny bit. So I'm going to go in there and add some darker values there. Then the upper lip is just a slightly darker value than the skin tone. So I can put in some skin tone. I talked about this in some of my other videos. Even if the person's skin tone is very, very light and Caucasian, they're still not as white as the paper. So you're going to have to put down some light value. And then as you work over the lips themselves, you can work a little bit of a darker value. And there are very subtle value shifts within those shapes themselves that you have to be mindful of. But we want to get kind of a basic value to start. Without shifting the shape of the lips that we just spent some time trying to get. All right, so then the upper lip has this a little bit of a shadow on the underside because the lips themselves are kind of like cylinders laying on their sides, and light typically comes from above. So we're going to have shadows on the underside. And the entire upper lip itself is a bit darker than the lower lip because of the way it angles inward. So it doesn't catch any light, not on this upper lip here. On the very top kind of peak of the upper lip, we do catch some light, but not on the entire lip itself. And of course, the image I'm working from, this woman is wearing lip gloss, so her lips are nice and shiny.
You're gonna be here for a little while?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you just make sure the lights are off and the door's shut?
Yep, will do. Thanks. So it's important also when you're applying values to the lips is to consider the space around them, the skin around them. Placing in that tone, that skin tone, gives you kind of a place to start and how dark to go with the lips as well. And there's some subtleties in here. I'm going to go a little bit darker, start to push my values. But then I'm also going to use my eraser to come in and highlight lighten the skin and highlight along that peak. And highlight the cleft. Oops. Highlight along the skin tone here. Pull up a little bit. And the creases in the bottom lip, the reflected light. You want to go in with kind of line work like this, that kind of shows the thickness of the lower lip, but you want to do it with your eraser. Much like when you come in and add some highlights to the hair. There's even some highlights in the upper lip there, and the creasing. And then we work back in. Shapes, shadow shapes underneath, emphasize some shadows here. Again, I can't emphasize how important it is to include some of the surrounding area. How that really starts to create the form of the face and the lips themselves.